Fellow Ambazonians, four important premises made by intellectuals and great politicians that can be used to justify the position of the interim government and to educate the La Republic contractors and the La Republic government. Once more, four important premises made by intellectuals and great politicians that can be used to educate the La Republic contractors and La Republic government and to justify the position of the interim government. Yes, the 28th of October 2022, the first premise: real change can only come with radicalism. That is from Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister of United Kingdom. Again, real change can only come with radicalism. That is from who? Rishi Sunak, the current Prime Minister of United Kingdom. That's the first premise. And what does that premise mean? What does that statement or the proposition mean? It means that what? You cannot create change without putting enough effort. This is just like one of the Newton third law, one of the Newton law of motion, which is about the inertia, that an object will stand where it is. The law of inertia, an object will stand where it is if a force is not placed on it, and will continue moving on a straight line if nothing is touched to deviate. That is one of the laws of that is one of the laws of Newton. Among the third laws of Newton, among the three laws of Newton motion, one is that is linked to inertia. That you need a force, you need energy to move an object that is in a state of stagnation to start moving. And when that energy is moving, you also need something that can stop it or to make it deviate, because it will keep moving on a straight line. So this statement he made, real change can only come with radicalism, which means there is need for energy. That is from Rishi Sunak. So for over 61 years, we have been in a state of stagnation, a slave mentality state, a state where we are considered second-hand citizens, a state where we are considered subhumans. So you cannot create a change from that state, that initial state of 61 years, without radical position. You need to be very radical. He made this statement because he is taking the office of United Kingdom as a prime minister. He's taking that office as a prime minister when the economy is tanking, the economy is sinking. The global problem of inflation striking the global economy is striking UK very hard. The oil prices, the skyrocket oil prices is striking UK very hard. The Ukraine-Russia war that is causing a global problem, adding to the ongoing pandemic issue, is striking UK very hard. So he believes that for them to have a change, they will need to be very radical. We in Ambazonia, we of the interim government that have chosen that position of radicalism, that have chosen that extreme position that Dr. Akwanga Ebenezer did mention, because Akwanga already told us that he is no longer at that extreme. He is no longer radical. He started this movement sleeping in sugarcane plantation behind Mile 17 with Senju Gilbert and other great historians in this La Republic defunct economy, when he was very radical. Before he went to prison in Yaoundé, he was very radical. He followed the word of Rishi Sunak, that for us to have a change, we need to be very radical. We don't need to be talking with the enemy, looking at the enemy with sorrow heart. We need to take that position of radicalism to create a change from that initial state of slave that they have looked at us. But is that what the Akwanga is now doing? Akwanga started saying that, no, it is now a give and take. He started singing the song of give and take. He started going to call ceasefire before the enemy. Before the enemy calls ceasefire or the enemy cease firing, he called a ceasefire. He started talking about give and take. That is Akwanga. He starts saying that the extremists are helping me do my work. It means he's seeing other people to be radical than him. He has moved from that radical position that I used to sleep in my 17 plantation in sugarcane farms, try to discuss on methods on how to take us out of slavery. He has moved from that radical position to the middleman position. So he's now seeing us as the interim government as those that are radical. So we, the radical, are now helping him to do his work. So that is why I'm saying that the interim government is at a good position, because we are following the word of what? Rishi Sunak. That's a great politician. That's an intellectual. He has philosophical ability. He must have almost reached what we call nirvana in Hinduism. He's almost having the Krishna consciousness. If he adds a little bit into his Hindu practice, he may be almost reaching what we call the Krishna consciousness, which is just like what we call state of enlightenment. In Christianity, we can call the Christ consciousness. So that is an intellectual telling us that for us to have a change, he's almost lining up to the Newton first law of motion, which is tied to inertia. That if you don't radical on an object that is standing, if you don't put enough force on an object that is standing, you may not be able to move that object to a next position. But if you become having enough energy and to add momentum on a standing object, that object can be moved from one point to another. So we are in the state of inertia for 61 years. So do we need to be very radical and apply a lot of energy, momentum to push that state of inertia to move us to another level? Yes. So Dr. Akwanga, and two for Bo Herbert, Cho Ayaba, Chris Anu, Seseko, Ueba, Jomba Okoro, Elvis Kometa, EPA, and all the like. Go and study the word of the recent Prime Minister, a great philosopher, a great economist, someone that has studied, someone that has worked in a hedge fund, that has an ability to combat risks. A risk taker. To work in a hedge fund, you must be a risk taker. And to be a risk taker, you must be very radical. And to be very radical means you have to do what? To be very honest as what he has said. You must be very honest and apply consciousness, high level of consciousness, such that you can be able to move something from one level to another. Rechange, which means that what? For us to move out of slavery, we must be able to be very radical. You cannot take yourself out of slave master's house just by begging the slave master. That's why I'm saying I'm educating the traitors. I'm educating Akwanga, Cho Ayaba. You cannot go begging the slave master to leave you. You need to be very radical. And if it warrants you to fight and do destruction to find your way out of the slave master house, you do it. That is what Rishi Sunak is saying with that statement, that real change can only come with what? Radicalism. For him to take the economy of United Kingdom out of the sinking position, he needs to be radical in his policies. That's what he is saying. So thank you, Dr. Samuel Sako. Thank you, the interim government. Thank you for all of you that have stood that radical position. This statement matches with the second premise, which comes from Elon Musk. He said linear response to an exponential threat can take you to nowhere. That is now the words of Elon Musk. You cannot have a linear response to an exponential threat. It means he is just talking in the same line with what? With the statement made by who? Which said that Malthusian theory of population. Yes, Malthusian theory of population says that what? that the food production is growing at an arithmetic progression, while the population is growing at what? Geometric. And if human do not take care, they will fall short of food. And if they fall short of food, it may be the only solution to this is that natural disaster will now take away to reduce the population. That is the Malthusian theory of population. It's in line with what Elias Musk said in this proposition, that linear response to an exponential threat, it does not make meaning. Linear response means 1, when you have 1, you move to 2, from 2 to 4, 4 to 8, 8 to 16. That's a linear response. But exponential is when you can just move from 4 to 16. That means x squared. The linear response is like 2x. Y is equal to 2x. Y exponential response is just like y is equal to what? X squared. When you put x, that means 2 to the power 4 or 2 to the power 2. You are moving an exponential rate. So when you have issues that are very dreaded, that are too pressing, like the Ambazonian War of Independence, this is a threat on us. This is a threat that's more exponential. La République does not want to take it lightly. We just want to discuss with him during consortium. He just said, no, I cannot bear this. He just went and brought his bee and flood all our territory and start shooting and killing us. That is an exponential threat on us. He's using exponential threat. Our existence is at risk. We are at threat. Our survival is threatened by his behavior. And his behavior is what? Exponential. So what do we do as Ambazonians? Do we need to go in a response that is very slow, like what Akwanga, Acho, Ayaba, Chris Anu are going and meeting a Banqui, and they are discussing privately? That is a linear response. Do you go sitting with the enemy without a third party and discussing privately and talking and begging Banqui, and begging Eko, and begging Ngole, and begging Ngongo, and begging Pobia, and begging Diongute, talking behind with them and collecting some blood money and putting in your pocket? That is a linear response to an exponential threat, to an existential threat on the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. There's a heavy risk, a heavy weight on us that we need to liberate us from slavery. That is a threat. That's an existential threat on us. And the enemy is responding on that threat, pressing that threat in an exponential rate. Why we want to go to them with what? A linear response, begging them, sitting behind back doors with Eko Banqui, Frundi, and discussing. Chris Anu will meet in Minnesota with Frundi. Chris Anu will meet with Banqui. Cho Ayaba will be meeting with Banqui. Eko Akwanga will be meeting with Banqui. John Ba Okoro will say, I'm talking with Diongute. Me and Diongute are having our private discussion. We talk. I have my agents in La République. I have insiders. I'm talking with them all the time. Is that how we need to get ourselves out of this existential threat, out of this exponential threat on our survival? Is that the method? Is that the way we should go? If we go like that, we are just following this statement that we are linearly responding to a threat to us that is coming in an exponential way. The threat is exponential. The threat is too dreaded. The threat is too high. The way the enemy is using to press on us on this particular threat is at a geometric rate. But we want to go sitting back doors negotiation. That's why I said I want to use it as a means to justify the position of the RG, to say that we have to also take an exponential response to the exponential threat on us. And that exponential response is what Dr. Samuel Sako is saying, that no, I cannot sit with you behind and talk. Don't call my phone. For you to reach me, create a medium. Don't go into Toronto 1 and CDN 1 and CDN 2 or Ottawa. La Public Conference in Canada and be talking nonsense where the United Nations third party mediation has not been put in place for the enemy to say, yes, I submit. When Dr. Samuel Sako said that, let the enemy submit to a deal, it means he is already telling the enemy that we have to be of two equal status. We have to come to that table as two equal status. That is an exponential response to an exponential trade. I will not come like a subhuman. I will not come like a slave. I will not come like the dog. I will not come like the 2 cubes of sugar. I will not come like a slave under a slave master where we'll be talking behind closed doors. I have to come there where me and you are of equal status. When we say equal status means you are bringing an exponential response to an exponential trade. This is the advice from the richest man in the world. You must take an exponential response to an exponential trend. You cannot use a linear response to an exponential trend and you think you are going to combat that trend. You cannot combat that trend in that particular angle. So can Cho Ayaba learn a lesson from the richest man of the world, Elon Musk? Can Akwanga learn a lesson from the richest man, Elon Musk? Can you do for Bo Herbert, John Ba Okoro, Fontainebleau, Weber, Seseko, Nepa, Epa, and Elvis Kometa? Can people learn a lesson from the richest man in the world? Yes. You people at the beginning, Seseko was very radical. He followed the words of Rishi Sunak. Was very radical and said, if you joke, any leader who joke will place you under the bus because what we want is boya. That is when he was radical and he was giving an exponential response to an exponential threat. At the beginning, Weber was also very radical when he stood up and said that if you don't solve this problem today, remember when the people rise to bring the army of France and add your own, you not take them their resolve down. That was radicalism, according to Sunak. That was an exponential response to an exponential threat, according to the word of Elon Musk. Weber was radical, but what happened along the way when they start eating soya, start collecting blood money and putting in their pocket? Weber now start linearly responding to what? Exponential threat. Seseko start linearly responding to what? Exponential threat. So why could they not maintain their radicalism? At the beginning, Akwanga was very radical. He was sleeping behind man 17 sugar canes with a lot of people telling them how they must free the land. Today he started saying that let's go into a midway, let's give and take, let's call ceasefire. The extremists are helping me do my work. The word the extremists is this radicalism that Rishi Sunak raised. So, fellow Ambazonians, send this message across to all the traitors, Let them know that you cannot solve this existential threat on us with a linear response. We cannot remain on a state of inertia. According to Newton's first law of motion, we have to move. And to move, we need radicalism to move that object from one position to another. And the third premise is coming from the words of the first wife of the former wife of Elon Musk. When I followed her talk, she made another statement. A problem cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created it. That's the wife of Elon Musk. That is the wife, the ex-wife, the ex-first wife of Elon Musk. You see that he's almost having the consciousness of his husband. She and the husband are almost talking to the same. The husband is always a problem solver. And the woman came up and raised a wonderful proposition that can be used to justify the position of the IG. And can be used to educate these traitors. This Cho Ayaba, Chris Anu, Seseko, Akwanga, for Bo Herbert, John Ba Okoro, and all the like. You can get to the words of the wife. Go to YouTube. Look at the wife of Elon Musk, the first wife of Elon Musk. You listen to her justification, listen to her words, the wonderful statement she made. A problem cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created that same problem. You created a problem. You put us under slavery. You call us second-hand citizens. You consider us subhuman. You consider us slaves. You consider us dogs. And you think you solve that problem with that same level of consciousness? No. If you solve it with that same level of consciousness, means you will be trying to do what? To create what we call linear response to an exponential problem. Exponential threat and a linear response. If you want to solve with that level of consciousness, it means they want to solve this problem of Ambazonia La Republic. They want to solve it with the same level of consciousness that they created the problem in 1961. They created the problem in 1961 by taking over our territory, consider us slavery, colonizing our territory, annexing our territory, consider us subhumans. And they don't want us to come to that table and talk as people of two equal status. That we were category B trust territory of the United Nations, and they were also category B trust territory of the United Nations. At the level of 1961, when they came and took over our land, they didn't consider us that. They considered us as an annexed territory. And they want to solve the problem, still considering us as an annexed territory. So the consciousness that they used to create that particular problem was that we were an annexed territory. That's the consciousness, and that's why I said I want to educate the people, the public government, using this proposition, this premise from Elon Musk's first ex-wife. I want to use it to educate them. That you must come down from the horses, the high horses that you have climbed, and think that you are up and we are down. That is the consciousness that used to create this problem in 1961. John Gute, get me. Paul Biya, get me. Ngo, Angole, and all the public government, get me very well. The consciousness you used to create this problem in 1961 was that we are annexed territory, and you are the master, and we are slaves. You cannot solve this problem, see, considering that state of consciousness that you used to create that problem. You cannot solve it in that way. You must come down from the high horses, you sit on that table, and you discuss to us with like people of two equal status. And that's why I say, thank Dr. Samuel Sako. You are extremely very intelligent. That's why you are just like who? Like Rishi Sunak. You have studied religious philosophy. Sunak is a great philosopher. He's a great economist. He's a great politician. And that's why he, at this very young, dynamic age, you can see him stand out. He is standing out and showing that he can be the best leader within our 21st century, because he's combining the economics, the philosophy, and the politics together to see how he can drive himself out, not driving himself, but the economy of the United Kingdom. He has worked so hard for that economy. So you see, you Dr. Samuel Sako, a religious philosopher, you are almost taking the same radicalism position like Sunak, who said that we must, real change can only come from radicalism. So that radical position that you have taken, Dr. Samuel Sako, is the best, because it is making you to tell the enemy that you cannot solve this problem with the same level of consciousness that you created the problem. You created the problem, consider us subhuman, consider us an annexed territory, consider us slaves. You must consider us as people, human beings and people of two equal status. Then you have changed the consciousness that you used to create the problem, and then we can sit now and talk. So can these traitors of our movement learn from the words of the ex-wife of Elon Musk? That, and can La Republic learn from it? Can Ngole, Banqui, John Gute, Paul Biya learn, and even Emmanuel Macron. Emmanuel Macron, please. I know you are also one of the great politicians. Yes, you are a great politician. If you are not a great politician, you wouldn't have been leading one of the great nations. One of the powerful nations in the world. If you are great politicians, you must also be moving across this type of propositions. You yourself are making such propositions if you are very genuine and objective. You know that what Elon Musk said, that linear response to an exponential threat it cannot work. You know that what Rishi Sunak said, that real change can only come from radicalism. It's a true statement. I'm talking to Emmanuel Macron. You also believe that when the wife, the ex-first wife of Elon Musk said that a problem can only be solved cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created that problem, that lady is extremely very correct. And you, Emmanuel Macron, when you were sending La Republic to colonize our territory, you consider us an annexed territory, you consider us what? A subhuman. So can you solve this problem now, Macron? consider talking to Paul Biya to solve the problem now. Not more consider us an annexed territory and consider us as what? Category B trust territory according to the United Nations Charter. Can you now talk to your people using these words from this ex-wife of ex-wife of Elon Musk? And I will leave this. The last proposition is coming from Biden. President Biden, the president of the highest nation on the planet, the president of the leading economy. No one can doubt that America is leading. And if someone who is at the helm, he has been a senator for long and also become the vice president under Obama administration for the 8 years when they were in office. And today he is now the president of the United States. So he's one of the great politicians. When he was talking, when he wanted to send some words to Rishi Sunak for his recent appointment, he made a very wonderful statement. He said, each of us have power to disperse darkness and bring light into the world. That is the words. Go and listen to Joe Biden. Each of us has the power to disperse darkness and bring light into the world. When you say has the power to disperse, when you use the word disperse, it's just like how we are saying that you have to be radical. You cannot disperse darkness with just being begging. The darkness on us is slavery. The darkness on us is what? Is what? Annexation. The darkness on us is what? Colonization by La Republique and France. That's the darkness that they have created on us. And each of us an Ambazonia. We have that power. And that power will not go by just going to beg the enemy with a linear response. We're not just going to beg the enemy, consider our position as slaves. We're not just going to go to beg the enemy to like what? Subhuman. We need to be radical in order to have that power to disperse the darkness. And then bring light, bring freedom. The light is freedom to our people. Because when we have independence, we are not going to bring light. We are going to be very honest. We are going to treat our people as human beings and not as dogs and not as 2 cubes of sugars and not as slaves. We will consider them humans and consider everyone equal, equality, no discrimination. That is now freedom that we are fighting for our people. So what is Biden advising us from that word? That we should all generate enough power within us so that we are going to disperse the darkness on us, the slavery darkness that is on us, the colonization darkness, the annexation darkness that the Republic has put on us for over 61 years. We can have that power to disperse it and be able to shine the light for our freedom to our people. Do we do that? Just go begging, sitting with back doors, and doing Canada or Ottawa type of discussion where Cho Ayaba will fly this is crazy man in Hong Kong called Capo Dania to go and start making Mezoom type of things and discussing with the enemy in back doors. Chris Anu will be there, Akwanga will be there, Tufo Bohebe will be there. They'll go and sit with back door talks and be discussing behind. Is that how we can disperse that darkness? Talking like people as subhumans? Dr. Samuel Sako, thank you so much. May God bless you. If I go through these 4 propositions, all these 4 premises, all these statements, these hypotheses raised by these intellectuals, by these politicians, by these economists, by these philosophers, one of them that is almost reaching the Krishna consciousness, one of them that may stimulate his way into the nirvana according to the Hindus' knowledge. If we can be able to get into it, we'll see that the interim government under the leadership of Dr. Samuel Sako is almost surrounded with these 4 propositions coming from these 4 intellectuals and 4 politicians. And let me go back and start it from number 1. Real change can only come with radicalism. That is the words of Rishi Sunak. The second is coming from Elon Musk. Linear response to an exponential threat may not be able to solve a problem. That's what Elon Musk said, that we cannot be linearly responding to a threat that is coming to us in an exponential way. He may have said this using the issue of population growth. He may have said this using other issues like the global pandemic and other issues that are coming on us, or the issue where the population is drastically reducing. Because according to the projection of Elon Musk, we may have a drop down of population in the near future. And when we have that population, we cannot survive the planet with a few population, given that we are having an aging population. That's why he said that statement. If you follow this statement of Elon Musk and add now to that of the world, she said that a problem cannot be solved by the same level of consciousness that created that problem. And you end with the word of the global leader Joe Biden that says that each of us have the power to disperse darkness and to bring light into the world. You will see that Dr. Simon Sako interim government, let me not say Dr. Simon Sako, let me say the interim government of the people of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, under the stewardship of Dr. Simon Sako, surround himself with these 4 propositions, and from these 4 intellectuals and politicians across the planet, they have made these wonderful statements. If we adapt them to our revolution, we know that there is no need to go and sit behind and do any backdoor discussion. When you go behind and make backdoor discussion, you are just like solving the problem with the same level of consciousness. You go backdoors and make backdoor talks. It's just as if you are bringing a linear response to an exponential threat. It means you are not being radical, and you cannot bring a real change without being radical. And the light that we need in our nation cannot come when you cannot put enough power, you cannot put enough energy. So, fellow Ambazonians, thank you. Share this message to all the La Republic contractors. Let Dangote have a copy. Let Emmanuel Macron has a copy, and let the interim government of Ambazonia, under the leadership of Dr. Simon Sako, lay hands on this and know that they are on a good footing. The position they have stood is radical in nature. No backdoors. Consider us as people of 2 equal status means you will not solve the problem at the same level of consciousness that you created the problem. And from there, we are now given them an exponential response to an exponential threat. Exponential response to an exponential threat. Going down the horses, the high horses, and look at us as 2 equal status means now you are no more going to solve the problem at the same level of consciousness. We are of equal. And that means we are very radical. And we can disperse the darkness of colonization. We can disperse the darkness of annexation. We can disperse the darkness of slavery and shine light into the people of Ambazonia. Thank you, fellow Ambazonia. Share this to all the La Republic contractors, La Republic Dangote, and Emmanuel Macron, and to the interim government.